Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and yesterday was a very depressing show, I would say, as the Miami Hurricanes got their tails whooped by Florida State 45-3. A horrific performance at the Rock. But on the road today, the Miami Dolphins, all right, let's talk some good football. The Miami Dolphins have pretty much again arch up another win. They are 6-0 with Tua Tagovailoa as their starting quarterback, especially games in which he's finished. Okay. And they pretty much defeat the Chicago Bears on the road 35-32. It was an offensive showcase between the two teams. The Miami Dolphins defense was expected to feast a bit more because Justin Fields was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL coming into the game. Fields had been sacked 31 times. So the Dolphin pass rush was expected to get home more than once than it did today. But nonetheless, Miami Dolphins, again, Tua with a very spectacular performance, with the exception of the last drive in the fourth quarter, or his last two drives in the fourth quarter. But Tua, again, shines 21 for 30, 302 yards passing, averaging 10 yards per pass. That's excellent because that's basically a first down every throw. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And once again, Tyreek Hill balls out, 7 catches, 143 yards, 1 touchdown, a long of 39 yards, 8 targets, 7 receptions, and Reek is over 1,000 yards for the season on pace to shatter, receiving records for the NFL. Jalen Waddle as well also shines, also getting in the end zone with 5 catches, 85 yards, and 1 touchdown. All right, so this has been a very efficient team offensively. The Miami Dolphins under Tua's stewardship has been, pretty much a nightmare for defenses, especially the last few games, right? The Steelers struggled with Tua in the first half, adjusted the second half, let's just say that. But nonetheless, both the Lions and the Bears felt the wrath of what speed could do to you when you're facing a team like the Miami Dolphins. I'm not going to remove credit where credit is due. Justin Fields played a hell of a game, all right, as a quarterback, and not only that, as also a running quarterback as well, as he was not able to be cradled by the Dolphin defense. He went 17 for 28. Yes, 123 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, but on the ground he was sensational, averaging nearly 12 yards per carry with 1 huge touchdown of 61 yards, 15 for 178. Basically, and the Chicago Bears rushed for 252 yards altogether, pretty much controlling what is a pretty solid running game of the Miami Dolphins. They pretty much buried. Josh Boyer's defense does struggle on the road. I will say that. All right. The best games the Dolphins have had as far as defensively as it goes have been when they were home. All right. But it's been bend and not break either. The Buffalo Bills, although only scored 17 points against the Finns, they also ran about 90 plays, right? So they pretty much had the time of possession battle won in their favor. The Dolphins did control the Minnesota Vikings. The offense just didn't step up. And a long run by Dalvin Cook after a fumble by Jalen Waddle led to a Vikings victory, right, as well. So the Dolphin defense at home has been better. On the road is where they've basically struggled. They were pretty much manhandled, by the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields was pretty much the jack of all trades in this game because everybody else, was pretty pedestrian. All right. Montgomery, only rushed for 36 yards. Khalil Herbert only rushed for 23 yards. It was Justin Fields that pretty much did everything today. He was a one-man show for the Chicago Bears. All right. The Dolphins did sack him twice. Right. They did sack him twice. And they were pretty effective in that category. A bit of standouts that I saw, within the game as far as concerned, as far as the team is concerned in terms of success on defense. I don't want to bash anybody. I will say that Kohu was very good, as far as pretty much as far as coverage goes. And I will say Jalen Phillips, again, not his best game, I would say, because there were a couple of times he could have tackled, Justin Fields. He was fooled by the read option, but he was, once again, in every single play, he was all over the field. So I will give those two guys on defense a bit of credit. But 32 points is unacceptable against a Chicago, even though Chicago has been pretty good offensively. Miami's defense is considered elite and a playoff caliber defense. That should not have happened. Some of the fans were critical and towards the end of the game because Tua, on a couple of occasions, missed his throw. First things foremost was on the 4th down, in which he missed his receiver, tight end, the tight end Durham Smythe. He missed him, on a throw. that he basically one hopped, to the ground. Tua did miss him. And then, of course, there was a pass to Jalen Waddle as well, in which he missed. They also got saved on a PI, by the way, a pass interference. That's where the Smythe play came in. So I was listening to Brendan Toman today on the Porpoise Pod, and he said, well, that play probably shouldn't even happen to begin with. But nonetheless, that was a phantom pass, not a phantom because there was contact, but most times referees keep the flag in their pants and they don't call that play on Jalen Waddle, which, pretty much benefited the Dolphins. And of course, the Chicago Bears fans were also upset because on fourth down, they thought they were interfered with. And the referees didn't throw the flag, which led to a Dolphin victory. But I want to go back to the elephant in the room. And again, that's Tua's arm, right? Tua Tagovailoa has all the tools to be an elite quarterback, and he's shown that he is elite this year, with the exception of the deep ball. And that's a major complaint that a lot of Dolphin fans still have and still talk about. My friends still mention it as well. And it could have cost the Dolphins the game. Like, for example, in the fourth quarter, when Jalen Waddle, was well defended by the Chicago Bears DB. If he would have hit Jalen Waddle in stride and put less air and more zip on that ball, Jalen Waddle is gone for 6. Right? There's nobody that could catch Jalen Waddle. The safety was playing. He was playing a little closer. Waddle had passed the safety, definitely passed his defender, and Waddle would have been gone. So Waddle had to wait for the ball, attempt to catch the ball, and it was batted away by the defender. That's one of the things people talk about when they talk about Tua's lack of arm strength. All right, in particular. But nonetheless, I will also say the Dolphin defense should not have given up 32 points. 35 points should be able to win any football game. All right, any football game whatsoever. Okay, the Dolphins did have a scare as the defense gave up 32 points. So for all the complaints about Tua's arm, and I get the complaints, but Tua does have other tools that he's worked on that makes him a very solid quarterback. Number one, no turnovers today, and he threw the ball away, which was very good, and always found a receiver within the vicinity to not get a grounding call. All right. So that was something that worked out into his favor. He's very good at rolling out and throwing the football with accuracy. His throws, they're not like 5-10 yard ding and dunks. You saw right here in the statistics that I read to you, he's averaging about 10 yards, per throw. So that's pretty effective on the part of Tua Tagovailoa, as well. So, and he has nailed the deep ball on occasion. He did hit Tyreek Hill in stride today. I think if Tyreek would not have gone out of bounds, he probably would have been able to defeat his defender, basically defeat his defender. The safety was coming up to help to knock Tyreek out of bounds. I think that Tyreek could have beat that angle and gone further in the end zone. But nonetheless, he went out of bounds. It was a huge chunk play for the Dolphins. So he's getting a lot of chunk plays. He's throwing well on the run. And like I told Solana in our interview, he's wicked even in throwing the out patterns. All right. So Tua's having a phenomenal year. All right. He's got 15 touchdowns, only 2 picks. All right. That is phenomenal as far as efficiency goes. This offense is very efficient and is clicking on all cylinders, and it's only going to get better because the Miami Dolphins are 6-3. They play now as of starting next week. They play back-to-back home games, one against the Cleveland Browns. We're struggling, have pretty good talent on offense, not going to lie. All right. But nonetheless, it should be a Dolphin win. They are playing at home. And as I mentioned earlier, the Dolphins are a 4-point favorite, and the Dolphin defense, this is what I said, the Dolphin defense does play at home. They tend to get to the quarterback more at home than they do on the road, but nonetheless, they should win this football game. Then the Houston Texans come to town, and the Miami Dolphins should be able to win that game as Houston is 1-6-1. All right, they did play Philadelphia tough for a while, but the bottom line is Miami Dolphins, their offensive output, in particular, is way too difficult, for any team, especially a team that's not as good as the Texans to handle. Then, they go to the West Coast, which are back-to-back road games in which they face the 49ers, and they also face the Chargers, okay? So that's going to be some tough games because the 49ers are a worthy opponent on the West Coast, and the Chargers are 5-3. So it's going to be, and they're facing Justin Herbert. So you get the Tua versus Herbert thing going as well. So once again, as I mentioned, the Miami Dolphins, as far as offense goes, they're very efficient. They seem to find a way to get open. Tyreek is able to get open because Tyreek is not just a guy that can burn you down the field. Tyreek is a guy that runs very good routes. Different from Mike Wallace, how everyone thought that Mike Wallace wasn't being utilized correctly. Mike Wallace was a very good deep threat, but he did not have the speed of Tyreek Hill, and he definitely did not have the route running skills that Tyreek has. And Tyreek is basically, once the snap goes off, he's full blast from 0 to 80. Okay. Tyreek does not build speed. He is speed. All right. He just basically jumps off the blocks and he's gone. Okay. And he's shifty. So if you're covering him one-on-one, as a defender, if you miss your angle, he's going to beat you. That's why he gets open. He's very good at creating separation for himself and creating space for himself. And Tua is very good at getting the football to guys like him who are able to, get in space. The same thing with Waddle. Waddle's not as fast as Tyreek, but Waddle's also very good at shifting away from defenders and getting open and creating space between him and defenders, or finding that hole in the zone where Tua could put the ball in the correct spot. And that's the thing, all right? That's why the Miami Dolphins are being very successful. Today as well, Jeff Wilson comes in. He understands Mike McDaniel's offense is a very similar offense to what he ran in San Francisco. He was with in San Francisco. So he also gets in the end zone. He gets a touchdown, runs much more aggressively than Raheem Mostert. So those two are going to be a solid 1-2 punch. Chase Edmonds just didn't cut it this year, but I think the Wilson-Mostert combination is going to be deadly, as the season progresses and continues to progress. And the Dolphins role players as well, like Gesicki, who's a star, but he doesn't get as many targets, let's say, as Waddle or Hill does. And of course, not to mention the other targets, as well, like Cedric Wilson, who's also a very solid football player as well. These are guys that are benefiting from having a guy like Tyreek Hill and also having a guy like Jalen Waddle to be able to open spaces for him as well as in terms of, receiving the football. Okay. So takes from the game as well. The Bears offense, Justin Fields is a very solid quarterback. If you can get the right people around Justin Fields, the Chicago Bears will be a team to be reckoned with in the future. Fields is young, he's athletic, has a good arm, and he kind of understands. The game seems to be slowing down for him. All right, he's able to know when to run, when not to run. He'd rather also throw the football. He's a running dual threat quarterback, but his first mentality is to throw, not just run. So the packages they have for him today, as far as Chicago goes, were very solid. Okay, so if you're a Bears fan, and I'm not a Bears fan, I'm not actually fond of the Chicago Bears in particular. I've seen their fan base, not very fun. I will say that live in person. But the bottom line is, though, if you're a Bears fan, you're in good hands, with Justin Fields as a quarterback if you surround him with the right weapons. I think a guy like Khalil Herbert is a good running back to have. I remember him when he was at Va Tech. He was very solid. And then, of course, the acquisition of Chase Claypool is very good for that football team as well. Mooney is a very solid receiver, as what we saw today as well. So I do think, the Bears can be a force to reckon with, and not this year, maybe not next year, but a couple years to come, if they surround Justin Fields with the right personnel. All right. As far as the Dolphin goes as well, they're all in on Tua. So there's nothing holding the kid back. They're all in. The Dolphins want to win now. They're not building for the future. They've basically said, screw the draft picks. And the good thing about the Dolphins, though, is that they're not, selling out the draft picks for older, guys that may want a second chance. They're investing in talent that's still young. All right. Tyreek still has, I think, a good 5 or 6 years of solid football ahead of him. You have Jalen Waddle, Mostert, Wilson, are very solid players on offense. You have guys that, that they're good, they're glue guys, but they're very effective glue guys, like Van Ginkel on defense, Landon Roberts, as well. Christian Wilkins is a stud, Jalen Phillips, right? The Miami Dolphins are all in, all right? And they want not just to go to the playoffs, they want to go deep into the playoffs. And if this team continues to progress the way they progress, they will get there and they can do some damage, but they have got to play a complete game, and both on offense and on defense, all right? I want to see a game where the Dolphins are dominant on both sides of the ball, where they're dominating on offense and they're dominating on defense into one. These next 2 weeks is a good opportunity to do that as you're facing inferior opponents. All right. So hope you guys like the analysis. I thought it was pretty fair to both teams, in particular. I gave Fields his due, and Tua, again, another 300-yard performance as well. Something to think about. Another multi-touchdown performance. Something to think about. 15 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Probably the most efficient passer right now in the NFL today, as far as efficiency goes. All right. And I also want to give a little shout out once again to Alejandro Solana. Okay. Him and Brandon Tobin, after the game, put together a very nice episode for the Porpoise Pod. Please check that out, as Solana was gracious enough to join our show, in particular, a couple days ago. So I want to give back and promote his stuff as well. All right. So thank you, Solana. The Porpoise Pod, once again, available on Spotify, Odyssey, if you have that as well. Once again, everybody, my name is Will. Hope you guys like what you heard. If you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. All right. See you soon. Stay safe. God bless and go Fins.